we've been talking about the possibility of Israel using a nuclear weapon. It's a really scary thing to think about. And then I just was thinking, I don't really know much about the history of how Israel obtained nuclear weapons. So I was thinking we could start this podcast off if you can just talk about what's the story behind Israel and its nuclear program, nuclear weapons, if you know.
Yeah, I have I think I would actually rather go back and review it. It's something that I'm familiar with, but I just, a lot of the details now are fuzzy. Um,
Hmm.
it's, I think it was back in the 60s that Israel obtained nuclear weapons. They actually stole some um, nuclear materials from the U.S. and technology, and then developed it. So it, and the thing is, I'll just say, we can go into more detail on this later, but right now it's something that happened. They actually broke the law, obtained these materials illegally, obtained the technology illegally, developed their own nuclear weapons, and they now have, you hear different things, anywhere from 50 to 500 nuclear warheads, and everybody knows it, but we pretend that they don't have it because they are clearly in violation of the nuclear uh, proliferation treaty. Um, so, if we ever made it official, if we ever acknowledged that they had those weapons, then they would have to be sanctioned and so forth. So, but of course, so Israel is never sanctioned. Israel can do anything. Israel's got these nuclear weapons in violation of the treaty, and we just look the other way. We all know they haven't, but we look the other way. Iran, on the other hand, does not have nuclear weapons, never did, and it's not clear that they ever even tried to. I mean, we had a finding, I think the Defense Intelligence Agency, well, more than the DIA, I think it was all the intelligence agencies together, had um, investigated the matter during George W. Bush's second term. And they found that they had dropped the effort to gain a nuclear weapon in 2003. But others, like Gareth Porter, I think argue convincingly that they never even tried. Yet they've been subject to very, very severe sanctions. So anyway, it's the same old story. One set of laws for Israel, another set of laws for
Ha-
the rest of the world.
So has Israel ever tested a nuclear weapon? I imagine not, because if they did, then they would. There's no way to.
Right. Yeah, that's the
The
way of
nuclear
announcing.
proliferation
Right.
treaty will clearly have been violated,
Right. Right.
right? So we've never seen a nuclear test from Israel. We just know that they have
Right.
them. Everybody just
Yeah.
knows this.
It's well
Like,
known.
how do we know?
Okay. Okay. Well, our CIA, our intelligence agencies keep track of these things. But there was a nuclear scientist in Israel that came out and actually you know, leaked information on what they had done. I think it's Vidunu, say his name is something like that. He ended up under house arrest for years, and as far as I know, he may still be under house arrest. That's going way back to, let's say,
For leaking that?
yeah, for leaking that information.
So, are we? Everybody says Israel has nukes? Is that like a certainty, or is it possible that
Yeah,
they
I don't.
leak
Yeah,
this out to try to create the fear and the illusion? Or
I haven't ever heard anybody doubt it. Quite seriously. I think it's accepted. Everybody
hmm.
knows that they have it, and but it's not official, and so we can pretend. At the official level, we can pretend that they don't have these nuclear weapons.
So they stole the technology from the United States. Did the United States let it be stolen willingly? Like that seems like
No, I
not an
think it.
easy thing. You can just walk
Right,
out with some
right,
enriched
yeah,
uranium or whatever it is.
right. Um, yeah, I think that maybe the most important thing is that they actually stole the materials to get started. The plutonium or uranium. Um, no, yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. Right, these things are strictly guarded. That's true. But they had somebody on the inside, and he stole them.
and we were aware that they were stolen. Surely
Not
somebody's doing
immediately.
inventory. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
this is gone.
Yeah, again, I'll have to go and review it. It was a story that I was very familiar with like 15 years ago, and it's a thing that's kind of faded in my memory over time, but we can fill in the details later.
It's just crazy how Israel could just get away with anything. It's like the
Yeah.
most terrible spoiled child. You can wreck
Yeah.
the dad, steal your dad's car and wreck it or whatever, and you're like, oh, here's another
Right.
one, son. Keep on. It's
Right.
just how could they steal our technologies, do this thing, attack the USS Liberty, kill our people,
Right.
and still we're like, oh, he's just, oh,
Right.
Israel, get a little crazy every now and then.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Right. It
it's
wasn't always true.
ludicrous.
It wasn't always true. At least, like in the 50s under Eisenhower. Okay. you- Eisenhower, for example, we've talked about this earlier, the Levant affair and the Suez Canal crisis. Um, yeah, that was one time when the U.S., did not back Israel. Actually, Israel had joined with, I think, both the French and the British in trying to seize the Suez Canal from the Egyptians. And Eisenhower just pulled the plug on it. He says, you're going to stop this right now. Um, but that was a different America. I think everything changed. Obviously, like Israel, had quite a bit of influence. One reason that the state of Israel was created was that under Truman, you know, Truman, blessed the establishment of the state of Israel, actually against the advice of many in the State Department. His most experienced foreign policy people said that this was not a good idea to do it certainly at this time in this way. And but he said frankly that he was interested in the Jewish vote and Jewish money. And that's what happened. So, but it wasn't all, it wasn't like it is now. Sometimes you could say no to Israel, as Eisenhower did in 1956. I think the the turning point was the USS Liberty in the Six-Day War in 1967, where Israel actually killed about 37 of our people. And I think approximately 150, 170 were injured on the USS Liberty. This ship was nearly sunk.
Yeah.
And it was clear they knew what they were doing. There was no question about it. This attack went on for hours, and there was a big U.S. flag and radio distress signals and whatever. They knew exactly what they were attacking, but President Johnson decided just to bury it. He just didn't. He thought it didn't help him. I think domestically to be at odds with Israel. So all those people were firmly instructed, never speak about this, hold your silence. And they did for years, but now they speak and they're very angry. There is a USS Liberty Survivors Group.
Yeah, I would be pretty damn angry too. I mean, I
Yeah,
just we keep on talking about this. How do they keep on getting away with all this stuff?
right.
How can Israel just do whatever it wants and the US
Yeah,
is always giving it cover? And we talk
yeah,
about the US establishing this international rules-based order. It's completely gone out the window thanks to Israel. The double standards are just so obvious now
right.
how
Yeah,
we can allow this type of humanitarian crisis, a literal genocide being executed, and we're like, oh, it's complicated, don't look at it. But look what Russia's doing, look over here. And everybody's like, what, you can't do that. I mean, the United States is crumbling, our reputation, our stand in the world is crumbling because we refuse to just say no to Israel. We're not even talking
right,
about sanctioning Israel or being evil. Just stop giving them the weapons to carry out this genocide. It's a very
right,
easy, simple thing to do. The US has all the power to just stop this. And it's just amazing that we're willing to destroy our whole country, essentially, our whole reputation on the global stage, just because we can't even say no. It doesn't mean that necessarily our relationship with Israel is over at all. It's actually
yeah,
the correct thing to
right.
do. If they're your friend, we talked about this before, you don't
Uh-huh.
let your friends drive drunk. Take away the
Yeah,
keys from Israel.
right,
He's clearly out of control. And he's like, okay, Israel, just calm down, take a breather. We're going to take away your guns for just a minute and you just calm down and then we'll talk about this. We could
right,
do that
right,
easily. And
right,
that's not anti-Semitic. That's not
right.
being
Eh,
anti-Israel. That's actually being
right.
pro-Israel. The actions that we're committing doing right now have almost guaranteed the destruction of the state of Israel, as well as the destruction of the United States empire. And it was the most
Yeah.
easily avoidable thing that's just staring you in the face. It just, never can fully understand. Why can't we just say no? Why can't, and,
Yeah, yeah.
and it just
Well,
comes down to money, I guess. I don't,
yeah, yeah. It's money. It's money. It's ideology. It's all those things. It's ideology in the form of Jewish Zionism, but also Christian Zionism, and all these things. They're just a real potent brew. You mix them together, and so yeah, it's obvious this is stupid, but go out and try to like stand up in Congress and start talking. You'll see what happens. Not only will you be booed and immediately excoriated, pilloried in the press, and just described as a vile anti-Semite, but immediately AIPAC is going to come after you, and you won't be reelected, right? And that's what happened. Actually, very recently, there was one of the very few Democrats that has been, pro-Palestinian and has been critical of Israel. It was Cori Bush, and
I
AIPAC went
saw that,
after her with the
yes.
big guns, and yeah, she's not going to be in Congress anymore. She failed her primary. That's what
It's
happens, and they
crazy.
see it. I mean, everybody knows. So there are a lot of, I think there are plenty of true believers, but there are a lot of people who just say, "Yeah, this is crazy," but hey, I I, I can't beat them, so I just got to shut up and or stand up and
Hmm.
applause with everybody else when Netanyahu is here. Again, that's shameful.
Right.
That shows we have a corrupt system. And it's worse than that. Again, I think as they're saying, like that whole spectacle of Netanyahu and the 58 standing ovations, um, you know, that's uh, that's something that's going to go down in history as you know uh, just an example of a country that went mad. I mean, like that. Now we look at these old reels of Hitler, at Nuremberg or something, and the rallies that were held there, and they say, well, how could these people went off the deep end, etc. Yeah, I imagine that, I expect, I hope actually, that sometime in the not too distant future, we're going to be looking at this Congress giving Netanyahu which I think will by then be recognized universally as, one of the most evil men in history, and watch our U.S. Congress, adoring him, worshiping him, giving him 58 standing ovations.
Yeah. But it's even crazier in this situation because we want to talk about Hitler and the Nuremberg trials. Well, those were
Oh, not the
Germans in
trials.
Germany,
Yeah, the Nuremberg
or
rally.
again,
Yeah, yeah, right.
Nuremberg rally. Sorry,
Yeah,
um, the Nuremberg rally and Hitler. It's like these were Germans in Germany. After World War One, you
right.
can
They
it's
suffered, and
different.
actually,
This
right. You didn't have to be crazy to be a Hitler supporter, or sort of say that.
in
I'll say because,
1933.
yeah,
Let's not
right.
take that out of context.
Right,
Somebody's going to
exactly.
clip
Yeah,
that.
yeah, right. No, no, right in 19 exactly. I mean, this was long before uh, all the horrible events that followed, right? And so
Hmm.
people, so there are all kinds of decent, ordinary Germans that actually saw Hitler as um, yeah, as a beacon of hope. Somebody who was taking Germany out of a very dark chapter in its history, and that wasn't an unreasonable thought to have at that time. So actually, it's not even a fair comparison. The thing is, like, this is a guy who's already in the midst of a genocide, and we're giving him the standing ovation. So it's actually, the shame is really not on us. It's not on the German people at that time.
Right. And then just once again to clarify, you're talking about Hitler in 1933 to 38, before the
Yeah,
invasion of Poland, the partition of Czechoslovakia. Just so
right.
anybody's thinking like, oh my God, this you're saying Hitler was a beacon of light. No, this is
Yeah,
before
right.
everything went crazy. Um, what's even just I'm not just what's crazy about our situation in the United States is that this is not an American. This is an Israeli. Somebody that lives on the other side of the world, or in a country on the side of the world, comes to our country and gets 58 standing ovations and says like, "Hey, you guys go to war against another country that completely against on the other side of the world, Iran, that has
Right.
done nothing to the United States,
Yeah. Not for a
that
long,
has
long time
no threat to the
anyway.
United States."
Right. Not for 45 years or so.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Right. Right. So that clearly is not posing a threat.
Right.
So where Israel, this country, has killed far more American citizens, just through uh, just actions in, the USS Liberty. They shoot Americans in the West Bank or in
Right.
Gaza. They're
Rachel
American
Corrie in
Palestinians.
Gaza. Yeah.
Um, right, could run her over with a bulldozer. It's horrific things. It's unbelievable. It really is. And well, it's clear that Israel runs our government. It's that apparent. I don't doesn't feel like a conspiracy.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, it's
just
rather
seems so
open, right?
obvious now.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's not much of an exaggeration. Again,
No,
when it
not
comes to
much.
foreign policy, vis-a-vis the Middle East, it's pretty much Israel gets called the shots. Maybe not 100%. Like Netanyahu would, if he had always had his way, we would have attacked Iran years ago. And we've done
Right.
almost everything, but it's just like we keep on stopping when we get to that particular point. It's just like, okay, some later, okay. So, but
Well,
it's looking like we said, that he will finally have his way. I think he's very confident that he's got, all his ducks in a row right now, and he's gonna be able to do it, pull it off this time.